Hey, house guests. I'm Andrea Chu.
And I'm David Belleville.
And we're here to talk Big Brother.
Let's do it.
How you feeling, David?
I can't believe how fast this season has gone by. We are starting to get down to the wire. There are only a handful of house guests left. And after an action-packed last few weeks, this next week seems to be shaping up to be a good one as well.
And can I just say, you look exquisite.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a really funny moment during Thursday night's live eviction episode.
I loved it, yeah.
Can you recap that for us for a moment?
Yeah, jokesters. They all the house guests planned to tell Julie she looked exquisite. So, they come out. Sometimes they're like, hey, Julie, you look beautiful. But they all went for exquisite. But Julie caught on fast and she flipped it on them. She was like, when America sat down, she was like, America, you look exquisite. And America kind of didn't know what to do.
And at the very, very end, the very last person to cast their vote to evict, it was Cory. And she thought she had every house guest figured out. She goes, let me guess, Cory, how do I look tonight? And he said, good.
Good.
So it went all the way up to him. But yes, that was a really fun live moment.
Just funny little jokes.
Shake things up a bit on live eviction night.
Love it. But we do have to start talking
Yeah.
about the reign of Bowie Jane.
Oh, I love that. That could be a movie.
I know.
I love it.
And she did sort of what I thought she was going to do, in that she ended up nominating Cirie and Felicia because those are the only two people who had really burned her in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we were also kind of right in that she was looking to other people for advice.
Yes, I mean, her game has been and was influenced by the other house guests during her HOH run. However, she took out the biggest target in the game. And this one, you have to believe, is final. Cameron's not re-entering the house this time. So for Cameron to be public enemy number one since the very start of the season, and countless times this house has tried to get him out, for it to be Bowie Jane to get him in her crosshairs and take him out, that is a very impressive feat for her, for an HOH that none of us knew what to expect.
Not even her.
Not even her.
And I feel like I personally did not see that coming, because if I were to say that Bowie Jane had one ally in the house, it would be Cameron, because they were kind of bonded over the red eviction, and Cameron was also kind of a loner. So I feel like the two of them bonded with each other. So I never really expected her to turn on him. And it really didn't take much. All it took was Jag getting in her ear and saying that, Cameron's kind of shady. And that was enough for her to be like, all right, I'm down to put him up. But before we get ahead of ourselves.
Yes.
You know what I miss?
What's that?
When they're like, who wants to see my HOH room?
Oh, yeah.
And we go and see it, and they read the letter from their family, and we get to see the photos and the snacks that they have in the album. We don't get to see that anymore, and I miss that.
That is a special moment. You get to know the house guests on a little bit deeper of a level. Something that might fulfill you a little bit. I do know on the Big Brother social media accounts, they share those details. So whether that was a conscious decision to try to drive fans toward their social media accounts, I'm not sure. But it is an aspect of the show that's been missing recently that is fun for us fans to see, a little glimpse into their real lives.
I like it, but maybe not everyone does, so I understand. So since it was Scramble Week, another one of those amazing multiverse themes that we love so much, Zingbot came out, but it was like a Zingbot we've never seen before. It was like a nice Zingbot that was throwing out compliments.
Which I think there's a time and a place for, but not on Big Brother. Not when we're all expecting Zingbot to come out and roast our favorite house guests, which ultimately they were roasted, and some of them burnt to a crisp, really.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a Zingbot episode like we've never seen before.
Yeah, so they scrambled it up, and we mixed together Zingbot and Otev, which, they're in this house for so many weeks, we couldn't have separated the two iconic things, but it's all right. We combining the iconic veto competition and Zingbot, and that robot roasted them. Some better than others.
The bigger the Zingbot, the bigger the zings, because my personal favorite, I think, has to have been what Zingbot did to Cory.
Yes.
Oh my God.
A whole song.
A whole song.
Should we sing it?
We can try.
3, 2, 1.
America, America,
Did you have a lobotomy?
lobotomy?
Oh, we won't sing the whole thing.
No.
For copyright
No,
purposes.
yeah.
And just
So yeah, Zingbot threw shade at Comerica. Really let Cory have it during an entire performance. Called him a tiny man. Attacked his mustache.
it was so mean because it wasn't even like creative insults. Like, I guess the song was creative, but they were just like, he's short. Short as a piece of grain. He has a thin little mustache and he's a bad kisser. Like, they went in on Cory.
They didn't hold back any punches. But Cory is a super fan of this show. So I think any super fan can appreciate a good insult from Zingbot, and he took it like a champ.
Another amazing one was Cerise. That one hurt. Zingbot was talking about how a lot of her friends have left the house, so she's kind of like a loner. And then it said, now you can finally do what you do best, lose while on an island. It was horrible.
That's pretty good, though. I mean, if you're going to burn Cerise, that is how you do it. And Zingbot won, Cerise 0 on that one.
Yes, and it also came for Bowie Jane's teeth, which she seemed to be a good sport about. I'm sure she knows that she's got a big old smile.
I thought Zingbot was going to attack Bowie Jane the way Zingbot attacked Mimi, who wasn't even in the house to defend herself, but essentially saying that she was a ghost all season long. I kind of thought that was the treatment Bowie was going to get.
I know, that's what I thought too. And then Cameron even said he was like, Mimi catching strays at home. She's not even here anymore.
Poor Mimi.
I know. Some of the one that Zingbot did for Felicia wasn't funny because it was like trying to make fun of the fact that she's old. And it said something about her having wrinkles, but she honestly doesn't have any wrinkles. So, well, it's not a good bird.
She's aged like fine wine.
Yeah.
So Zingbot did miss on that one.
Joke's on you, Zingbot. So we get the OTEV competition, the iconic one. And I feel like they need to make a rule that prevents the house guests from stockpiling the tiles.
So I was thinking about this as the competition was underway. I agree with you because then after one round or two rounds, like it's pretty easy. I think that there are more tiles with like a certain house guest. In this case, it's different every year, but in this case, it was house guests. So for example, there might be 20 Cory tiles, but only like 6 America tiles. You know, these numbers might not add up, but for the sake of this conversation, I think that might be a workaround to that strategy, is like making certain answers really, really sparse.
Yeah, sure.
Versus others, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just feel like we always see somebody do that. They start stashing their answers like to the side or in some corner, and it always works out well for them.
Yeah, and in this case, it was Jag.
And he won.
So there you go. It does pay to know the show and to know what strategies work for these recurring competitions. That is a tried and true strategy that gets executed every year, and Jag knew to pull it out this year, and he wins the iconic OTEV competition.
Yeah.
Can I make a quick confession?
Yeah.
It took me too long to realize that OTEV was Vito spelled backwards.
You thought it was just like a name they came up with, a new one?
A clever little name in the Big Brother universe, but it has a purpose.
Maybe it's because it kind of sounds like Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple.
What an iconic show.
Which it's also like the mascot of that competition.
Yeah.
Maybe it was inspired by that.
It could have been. But yeah, so Vito, OTEV, just flip it. It's the same thing.
I bet you're not the only one.
I hope I just hit somebody with knowledge out there whose mind is blown, because mine was when I learned that. I'm sorry. Go on.
You're good. But Jag's win was really crucial for the way that this week played out. Because what Bowie Jane was hoping was that she would win or somebody would win and keep the nominations the same so she could go forward with her plan to evict Cerie and not have to get any more blood on her hands or have to make a hard decision. Because what was happening was Jag and Matt were in her ear telling her, like, we need to go for Cory or we need to go for Cameron. Cory and America were in her ear saying, we need to go for Cameron. So she was not wanting to make a hard decision, but she was forced to.
Yeah, and that was her fellow house guests kind of forcing her hand. And if I were her, I would feel a type of way about that, because Jag and Matt, I don't think really communicated their plans all that well either. They just knew that they wanted to get Cameron out, but they didn't want to be the ones to do it, so they put it on Bowie Jane, and quite frankly, their plan worked out beautifully for them.
Yeah, and this is kind of how Jag has been playing. He has not won HOH, am I correct?
I think he's only been a veto comp winner.
Yes, but he's been able to use that power really to his advantage, specifically this week when it mattered so much. Like, they got a huge target out. They played a big part in getting the big target out and not have it be during their HOH reign.
And it wasn't unnoticed, though, by everyone. Cameron was very on to them towards, the end of his time in the house, and was trying to get people to see what he was seeing, that Matt and Jag are positioning themselves for everyone else to do the hard, dirty work so that they can float to the end with, in their opinion, lesser competitors to compete with.
Right. At least physical threats.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've been saying for weeks that Matt and Jag have really been positioning themselves well because they have everyone's trust. Everyone kind of thinks that they're working together. We saw it last week. Like, they knew the plan from every single kind of other duo in the house. But Cameron started making people realize, like, you need to look out for Matt and Jag because they're making you go after each other, and while they just skate to the end. Like, they're trying to pit other people against each other. And it's been working, but we'll see if people kind of turn their attention toward them.
And it's a shame that Cameron was the only one to really see it this week. I think regardless, the house wanted him out, so it might have been valuable information to be shared among the house guests. We'll see what that knowledge does for the gameplay moving forward. But nonetheless, Cameron's out of the house, and it was an eventful HOH reign for Bowie Jane. Congratulations. And Cerise survives the block.
Yes.
My quick thought on Cerie is that she very intentionally has tried to fall into the background, become wallpaper in this house ever since Jared exited this game, and as well as Izzy. And I believe that her strategy is working beautifully.
Yes.
Because she has been a master in the social realm of this game. She has influenced so many decisions. She's influenced so many house guests that if she can get to the end, even though she hasn't been a competition threat, she has herself a decent case to make. And everything she does is just so tactful. And now that she's made it this far, she might make it all the way to the end. And I know how big of a Surrey fan you are. So
yes. I think we're seeing Cerie do what she does best. She recognized that people were seeing her as a target, and she did what she needed to do, fade right into the background. So much so that when she was on the block, she wasn't really worried because she knew she was in a good spot, and people were seeing Cameron as the bigger threat in the moment.
And unless I missed something, I never heard or saw a real concerted effort to get her out of the game.
Nope.
Even though she could have been knocked out this week, and that would have been a big target for this house as well.
Yeah, I think Cameron's the only one who had ever talked about it in the past. Talked about kind of working his way up to get Cerie out, but obviously she got him first. Yeah. Well, not her. Other people got to him first, but he's gone now.
He's gone. Cerie's still in this house, and we have an interesting week set up for us.
Yeah, another trend that we need to talk about.
Sure.
It was demonstrated by Bowie Jane when she said multiple times, I didn't want to win this HOH. I didn't mean to win this HOH. She was so afraid about getting blood on her hands, which to me, that's the game. You have to make moves in order to earn your spot at the end. Or, at least to succeed in this game, you can't be afraid to make every single move. She was so concerned the whole time. But the whole house is kind of playing a more reserved game where they're more focused on manipulating other people to make the big moves and not so much going for the big moves themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm seeing it too. It appears that there's been a bigger emphasis on the social game for this cast than the competition game. Now, we've had the big competitors like Cameron, Heisem in the early goings have were eliminated.
Yeah.
And so what you have now is a group of house guests that have really played a lot more, like you said, reserved game and strategic game in the social way. So now that some of those big players are out, it's really anybody's game at this point.
We got to make moves. I need a
Moves.
Sari win so bad because, like you were saying, I do still think people see her as a competitor and she's in the good favor of a lot of people there. But if she can win an HOH, I think that will set her up to actually have a path to the end. Because right now, without any competition wins, it's really hard to see her coming out with the win overall.
And that's why winning is so important in this game. And if you can do it strategically in a way that makes sense for your game, getting blood on your hands isn't necessarily a bad thing because
Mm-mm.
historically, juries don't vote on emotion alone. They really do take into account how each player played in all aspects of the game, even if they themselves were burned by who the finalists are.
Yeah.
And so to your point, a move has to be made. A big move has to be made in order for you to have a resume worth winning at the very end.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if that was set up by the fact that the trend we saw going into the house was that the HOH made a move, they got sent home the next week. We saw that with Riley, with Heisem at the beginning. So maybe people were kind of afraid, or maybe they went in planning to play it that way. I'm not really sure. It's hard to know. I feel like if I were to end up in the house somehow, like I would think I'd go in with some big strategy, but you never know. Things change, dynamics change as soon as you get in there and week to week.
Right. And this house has been set up differently than I can remember so many others because there hasn't been one power alliance.
Hmm.
There's been splinters and factions and duos and alliances to come up and alliances to fall. And so I think another reason why people are so afraid to make big moves is because they're not insulated around a power alliance that
Hmm.
will have their back and support those big moves. It's been more so everyone looking out for themselves and or maybe a plus one, but I think that's kind of why we're seeing this dynamic. It's because there
Hmm.
isn't a huge power alliance to drive these big moves,
Yeah, I'm ready for something crazy. I'm ready for someone to win and not be afraid to just go for their target openly.
which is interesting that we're entering a week now that is going to be
That's
anonymous.
right.
So, a big move, this is the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. It'll be like an invisible HOH for the upcoming comic themed week. So maybe this will be the time for people to really take out a big target.
I love this because what it is just setting up so much drama.
Mhm.
And what is a good reality competition show without drama? Because everything is going to be based on pure speculation. For example,
Mhm.
we don't know exactly at this point at the time of this recording how this week is going to play out. All we do know it's going to be an invisible HOH.
Yeah.
And so is that an opportunity for Matt or Jag to go after each other? For Sari, Felicia,
Oh.
America,
Yeah.
well, America and Cory probably wouldn't go after each other.
No, but
However, hypothetically,
mhm.
these scenarios could happen in an invisible HOH.
Yeah, that's true. One moment completely unrelated to what we're talking about that I wanted to mention
Bring it up.
was that sweet footage they showed of Matt talking about how this is a game of people whispering and he can't really hear whispers. So when he's in a room of people and they're having whisper conversations, it gets really frustrating. And I think that the footage they showed was from actually a couple weeks ago, but it still stands. They're whispering the whole time. That I never really thought about it that way. It makes a lot of sense that it could be frustrating. You other people who have the advantage of like overhearing a conversation, he doesn't have that advantage.
I love when the Big Brother producers put those moments on the forefront.
Hmm.
It's been for our entire culture a challenging handful of years, and Big Brother is a reflection of society. And so now, especially how these casts have been assembled, they come from so many different walks of life and have such different backgrounds that we, as the viewer, can expand our own minds and our own view of life
Yeah.
through their experiences. And it was a really heartfelt moment that Matt shared with us and gave us a glimpse into his experience and that we can all learn a little something from.
Yeah, I love when we get to see those little human moments because so often they're strategizing and talking about who they want to take out. But when we get to just see them hanging out, I like a little bit of that too. Like, Matt opening up about that and just having like those struggles being in the house. Felicia shared a bit of her story and her background of why she joined the military. And more of like a lighthearted fun thing was like Jag showed us how he like folds his turban, which was
Yeah.
like really interesting. So I loved it. I like seeing those little glimpses, humanizes them more.
And I've really loved this cast this year, and those moments just make them so much more relatable. It was a special moment that
Yeah.
Matt shared with us.
And I want to know, after a few weeks have gone by, I know our prediction for the winner changes every week. So who right now do you think is set up to win?
So my first initial guess was Cameron. He's gone.
See ya.
The week after that, I went with Matt. And at this point in time, I'm just going to stay on the Matt train.
Okay.
He has the ability to win competitions. He has trust with all of the key players in this game right now. He hasn't been on the block yet, and he's playing a great social game. So at this point in time, Matt's my guy.
I think that's a good answer. I'm going to go in a similar vein with Jag. I think he's in a great spot. I love watching him play. I think he's become much more methodical and strategic than he was at the beginning. And he's recognizing that people see him and Matt as a duo. And I do think that, he has the competition chops to save himself and, keep himself in the house if it comes down to it.
The Minutemen.
The Minutemen.
The Minutemen. We're going with the Minutemen then.
Yeah.
It's the strongest alliance in the game right now. And they're two power players. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how it unfolds.
We will see.
Who the invisible HOH will be. And we'll be back to talk about it all. Leave us a comment on YouTube. I guess that's the only place you can do it where you watch it. And we'll hop in there and reply. And other than that, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.